Hello, everyone, and welcome to the As Seen on TV podcast for the originals, Season 1, Episode 5, Sinners and Saints. I'm your host, Dom, and with me I have my co-host, Mike.
Hello.
Umi's out with the flu,
Over there.
or something.
Yeah.
So, what'd you think of this episode, Mike? We got a lot more background on Davina. It was pretty much a Davina-centric episode.
Yes, and I liked that because I've been sitting here like, all right, who's this 16-year-old bitch who's obsessed with Marcel, and why do I care?
Mm.
That was the last, previous episodes, and now I realize I do actually care.
Yes.
Somewhat.
The episode started off with Davina and Elijah talking. Davina seemed very trusting of Elijah, first and foremost, and even gives him a drop of blood to rejuvenate him, so to speak. And do you think this was a nice act, or was it part of a plan to gain Elijah's trust to backdoor him in the future?
Now, my original... I don't know if it was an act of kindness or just, help gain his trust or whatever, but my original thought was, no, Elijah, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. You just drank a really powerful witch's blood. She could probably use that in the future to bind you to her in some way to kill you.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. So she could even use it to find some way to kill him.
Yeah, so that was my big thing. I'm like, no, you shouldn't have drank that. I like Elijah. Out of all the originals, he's the one I would rather die the least.
Yeah. So we kind of learned all about the witches and why, how they got banned from using magic and everything in the first place. We learned about the harvest, this whole ritual that the witches have, that they slaughter four of their children, their innocents, and supposedly resurrect them, and it rebalances magic and brings it back. So we see a lot of when the girls died, when they were slaughtered, 3 out of the 4 of them died, and you saw that there was a power transference. So the power was jumping from one to the other, and they got stronger and stronger and stronger. Davina was the final one, and Marcel actually came in, swooped in, and saved her. One of the things I was wondering, how did Marcel get into the graveyard? Didn't they kind of set precedents in episode 1 that it was considered holy ground and vampires didn't have access to it?
Yes, but you actually hear a point. I think it was Sophie talking to Jane Ann before she died, after, the harvest thing went through and all that stuff. She said something along the lines of, we'll bar vampires from the graveyard. So it wasn't in place yet. It was something they put in place afterwards.
Gotcha.
So I do remember that. I don't know who mentioned it to who, but I believe it was Sophie to Jane Ann. Could be wrong. But
So do you think that the girls, if they went through with the harvest, do you think that they would all be resurrected like they were told? Because they were left in the dark, first and foremost. They didn't know they were going to die. They told that they were going to be put into like a temporary little sleep or something. But then during the actual live ritual and not the rehearsals, they just started slaughtering them, just slit their throats, and the girls were horrified, screaming, kicking, fighting back, like they didn't want any part of it. But since Marcel stopped it, we didn't get to see the end of the ritual. So if the ritual went through, do you think the girls would have actually been resurrected?
That's a tough call. I would love to, there to be the silver lining to this and say, yes, they would be resurrected. But it's a blood sacrifice to, like, ancestral witches or whatever like that. I don't see that type of thing, being your sacrifice is going to be returned to you just, in goodwill. No, that kind of shit. You blood sacrifice. It's like, the old Aztec sacrifice. We're going to rip your heart out and kick you down the temple steps. An hour later, the gods aren't going to reascend you up the steps and put your heart back. So right. I don't think they were going to be resurrected. I think that was just what they were told to get them to willingly go through with it.
See, now, I think that they were going to get resurrected, because why would they lie about one thing? And then you see the witches complaining and crying, and now my daughter won't come back. Like, they believed that they would. So even the witches did. So at that point, everything up into this point of the ritual has been true. So why would the one factor that just Sophie believes is a lie not come to fruition when all the other ones believe it is. So
Hey, it's possible, but then again, this ritual hadn't been performed in 300 years, was it?
hmm
So none of them were alive when it was last performed, so really it's just word of mouth passed down for the last 3 centuries.
yeah.
So you really don't know how accurate it is.
So do you believe that if the ritual is not completed, that the witches are going to lose their power? Is it just these witches, if so, or is it all witches?
I believe it's just see these witches practice ancestral magic. So they have to be near and around their ancestors to be able to tap into that power. So I'm thinking if they do really lose their power, which it looks, everybody seems to believe that, if they do, it'll just be these witches because that's their source of power. Like Bonnie, like this is in New Orleans. Mystic Falls, what, Virginia?
Yes.
Okay, so she's based on a different source of power, whether it's her own internal magic or her ancestors or something like that. It's completely separate from these New Orleans witches. So I'm thinking it's just their grouping, and any one of them that practices that form of ancestral magic.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because I don't think it's witches all over the world.
Right. So now, Davina has pretty much been rattling off this story to Elijah like they're best friends. So, do you think this is some kind of like secret power, one of Elijah's vampire powers that he has that just kind of makes people trust him or opens
I
them
don't think
up?
it's Yeah, I don't think it's a vampire power of his. I think that's just his personality. He's extremely charismatic, and I mean, he's just got a silver tongue. I think he could talk his way into or out of anything, compulsion or not.
He doesn't have a very good job doing it with his brother.
No, but they're related,
This is true.
and Klaus is kind of a dick sometimes. He's kind of emotional and hot-headed and things like that. So anyone else, I think Elijah could talk as yeah.
Right. And then we had Elijah kind of make a little bargain with Davina for his freedom, and he offered to get her his mother's spell book.
hmm
Does that seem like a good idea to you? To help, like, control her powers?
Two things. This is one of those, if you ever watch Animaniacs, it's time for a good idea, bad idea. Good idea. Give Davina your mother's spellbook so she can control her powers and not level New Orleans in an accidental fit of rage. Bad idea. Your mother's spellbook probably holds all the spells and methods she used to create you and your original vampire family. Thus, she'll be able to probably find a way to undo it that doesn't involve white oak ash stakes.
Right. That was my biggest concern. But do you think if she aligns herself with both Klaus and Elijah, she's going to need that spell? Because that was for Marcel. And if they're kind of pitting her against Marcel, which it seems like they're working in her favor, especially Elijah.
Would she need that spell if she's allied with them? Probably not. But it is a big risk. Can Elijah really trust her at this point? I mean, if she gets her hands on all that lovely magic and figures out a way to undo the spell and she's working for Marcel the whole time, Elijah just screwed himself and his entire family.
Right. Then you have Davina saying that she wants all the witches to pay. She doesn't want any of them to have their powers back or anything. That's why she's not going through with the harvest of that, and she wants to live, obviously. But do you think there might be something in the spell book that she can use to exact her revenge on the witches and keep her power? Because once she gets a little more power hungry, do you think she's actually going to want to? Like, when she learns... She said the reason why she doesn't want this magic, why she doesn't want the powers, is because she can't control it, and there's always people get hurt around her. So, if she learns to control it, and she has all this extra power, do you think she's really going to want to give that up at that point?
I don't know. It's a tough call. I mean, right now she's 16, and she has a taste of a lot of witchy power that she probably would never have gotten otherwise. She may have been a very talented witch or become a very talented witch, but she would have never had this level of, boom, as I guess I should put it. So, I mean, if she gets that spell book, and Elijah said my mother was a really powerful witch, she'll look through that spell book, and who knows what she'll find in there. Maybe she'll find some fancy things she would have never thought of, and maybe she'll find a way to keep her power and make the witches pay. But you just don't know. I mean, who knows what's in that spell book? There's probably a recipe for chicken pot pie hidden in there somewhere.
Or chicken noodle soup.
Yeah, which I could have really used because, it's cooking behind me and it smells so delicious. I want to eat it right now.
I can smell it from here. I want a bowl. So, then we see Klaus is getting told the same story from Marcel's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of find out that Marcel and Sophie had this little intimate relationship kind of history going on. Mm-hmm. So how do you think this affects the dynamic of the story now?
Well, it's a lot of interesting backstory on Sophie as well, this episode.
Indeed.
I mean, it was a lot of Davina, but there was also a lot of Sophie.
It was the witches in general.
Yeah, the witches in general, but in the beginning, I just thought of Sophie as a very serious, she just lost her sister, she's very serious, she's kind of a bitch and all that stuff. Then you go back and realize, it shows you that she wasn't a very witchy witch. She wasn't into, her coven's, if you would call it that, way of doing things and way of thinking. Excuse me. Soup. The soup didn't cause that. Anyway, yeah, she was kind of a free spirit, and she went off to party and get drunk and sleep with every man she can come across. I guess that included Marcel. I don't know. Stuff. How does this affect the story now? I don't know. Maybe Marcel doesn't seem to care. Doesn't really seem to care that much about Sophie. Right. If he ever did at all.
So
it was probably just a booty call.
Do you think this is gonna surface in other episodes now?
Probably. Might come up down the line. I mean, Marcel's got got the hots for Cammy, so I don't know how it will surface or could surface. Maybe their night spent together would give Sophie some kind of edge magically over Marcel if she ever wanted to. I don't know.
Right. So Sophie kind of had a lot of pillow talk with Marcel, and that's how Marcel found out about the harvest and going in to stop it. He says he's got this rule about kids and stuff like that, so anybody that hurts him. So he goes in there, he saves Davina and all this stuff, and he claims Davina, he kind of saw himself in her and that she's a fighter. So did you get the feeling that this is kind of a parallel between Klaus and Marcel?
Yeah, I think so.
Like the same way that he saved Marcel when he was a young boy.
That's where the parallel comes in, because Klaus saved Marcel because he saw that in him. He was a fighter. He was a survivor. And I'm thinking, spending so much time around Klaus, being turned into a vampire and spending how many, 100 years with him or something like that, he probably gets the same sense about people now. So he probably saw that in her. He was a fighter, and he thought to himself, that's the whole reason I'm here today, is because someone saw that in me. Maybe I should give this girl a shot.
Right. Yeah. We get a little bit of Hayley in this episode. She insisted, that she wants to find her family connections out in New Orleans. It's the reason why she even came there in the first place. We still haven't really gotten much of that. We've heard some werewolf howls. We don't even know if they're werewolf. We've heard wolf howls. So do you think she's going to find them, or do you think she was misled?
I don't know, and I have a theory on this, but it ties in with this previous episode of Vampire Diaries. I don't know if we want to save that to the end or what. Will she'll eventually find, her little savior werewolf or werewolves there that helped her.
Yeah, we'll probably just touch on that in the Vampire Diaries episode for this week, because I had a very similar theory as well. So, Hayley claims that there's a guardian angel werewolf um, following her around. Do you think that's the case? You think she's correct? She's got somebody watching over her?
I think so. I think someone who knows, who either knows about her or has a sense of, you know, who she is and why she's special and stuff like that.
Right.
And they're either they're protecting her, out of selflessness, or to protect her and her baby, or for other means.
Right. And then Sabines' vision that she had, about the baby that Haley's carrying, it seems to be causing quite a bit of drama within the witch community, the circle. Do you think this vision is going to end up being true, or is it open to interpretation, like Sophie keeps bringing up?
I mean, I think any vision like that is open to interpretation. I don't know. Will it come true? Who knows? Maybe partially, maybe entirely, maybe not at all. Maybe she is, as Sophie put it, the clairvoyant version of a drama queen.
Right.
So, I don't know. This is a hybrid baby of some sort. Who knows what extra powers it'll come out with?
Right.
It could be a devil child.
Yeah. So we got a little more of Hayley and Rebekah. They had another little moment. So is this proof that Rebekah is actually genuine towards Hayley?
It definitely helps. No, I mean, I don't know if it's solid ironclad proof, but it's definitely a nudge in that direction. She definitely she definitely cares a little. I mean, Rebekah, she's not entirely cold and heartless, although she can be if you piss her off.
Right. So what about Rebekah and Marcel? There was like another little moment that those two had as well. Do you think there's still something left to the Marcel-Rebekah relationship that we don't know about yet?
From her end, yes. From his end, I'm not entirely sure. He's kept that very, hush at the moment. So there's definitely something left on her, and in her head.
Yep. So we see Davina go back to the church. Marcel is confronted by Kieran, who's the pastor of the church. The one Davina's hiding in, the one from the massacre that we revealed last episode, that kind of thing. So Kieran kind of threatens Marcel about the power and the influence that they have over the city, and he threatens Marcel to stay away from his niece, which turns out to be Shaun, the guy who snapped and did the whole massacre in the church. His twin sister, Cammy. Wow, tongue twisters.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you think he gets off telling Marcel what to do?
As he put it, he's kind of the head of the human influence in this whole supernatural love triangle that they got going on in New Orleans. So maybe he feels empowered-ish. I don't know. There's something up his sleeve to be threatening Marcel like that and, wanting to get away with it. And he did get away with it because Marcel just left and didn't do anything about it. So he's got something. It's not all words. He's got something there to back himself up. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is, a whole bunch of humans that are just letting the vampires live and let live and not going on an extermination rampage.
Do you think it may have been Cammy herself that was the one that Marcel all of a sudden realized, I need to back down because he really cares about Cammy?
It's possible. I mean, anything's possible there. I think about it. That might be likely because now he's like, if I kill him, I'm never gonna get to Cammy.
Right.
And I don't think he doesn't want to resort to compelling Cammy.
So, the whole massacre and everything that happened in that church, I was willing to bet anything that it was the vampires, and we found out that it wasn't, and it was actually the witches and a hex that caused him to lose his mind. What did you think about that little twist?
That was I was like, oh, you little bitch. As soon as he's there or whatever, and she just touches his hand like that, and I'm just like, oh, it wasn't. And I even said that. I was like, it wasn't vampire compulsion. It was.
Yeah. So now, how do you
So,
think Klaus is gonna affect that's gonna affect him, because he vowed to protect Cammy and take vengeance on whoever it was that did this to her brother.
well, Klaus doesn't know this little tidbit yet, does he? No. When he finds out,
I'm pretty sure Marcel told him it was the witches that put the hex on him when they were talking.
oh, maybe he did. Well, in any case, I mean, Klaus did promise Cammy, and if he does keep his promise, this means he's going to have to possibly kill a witch. Well, yeah, we've been revealed this episode. It's been revealed this episode that there are multiple factions in the witches. As Sophie put it, like the diehards who wanted to go through with this harvest, and then a few who didn't or weren't as gung ho about it. So it'll definitely mean Klaus is gonna bloody his hands with some dead witches.
Yep.
There's no escaping that.
Yeah.
If he wants to keep that promise.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. What about Hayley and Elijah? They had like a little thing at the end of the episode. They shared a little moment. Hayley gave him a little love tap, and I don't know if it was really anything, but is Elijah really over Catherine? And do you think he'd move on possibly with Hayley in the future?
Probably, maybe, I don't know. There's definitely. On Hayley's end, I think she loves Elijah, and she hasn't outright said it yet, or she's got a thing for him.
Yeah, and I guess probably the last thing is Sophie, who was so against the ritual in the first place. She lied to the Mikealson family now, and it seems like she wants the ritual to go through. So I think she's actually believing that all the girls will be restored and all that. What do you think they're going to do when they find out that Sophie was lying to her the whole time? Or lying to them the whole time, I should say.
What are they going to do? I don't know. If she wasn't bound to Hayley, twist her head off. Probably. But being she's bound to Hayley, I don't know what they're going to do or how they're going to do it. That's just... Klaus is going to be pissed. I know that. Guy, because, I mean, he doesn't like being lied to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I really don't know. That I gotta wait till next episode and see.
Yeah, well, next episode is called The Fruit of the Poison Tree. And it says, when Klaus discovers Hayley's life is being threatened, he goes on extreme lengths to protect her and their unborn baby. Having a difficult time dealing with the tragic events of her past, Camille turns to Father Kieran for guidance. Feeling as though he can trust no one, Marcel visits an old friend to seek out some advice, while Davina takes steps to learn how to control her magic. Finally, Klaus delivers some surprising news to Father Kieran.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think this surprising news could be?
I don't know.
Do you think it may have something to do with the witches in the massacre? Do you think he's informing him of what the witches have been up to? I think Mike froze.
He doesn't really know what happened.
You completely froze there.
Did I?
You did, so restate your entire thing. As soon as I asked you, you completely froze.
Crap. Father Kieran thinks that his nephew just snapped and went on a murdering rampage. I mean, he may have his theories behind it that, maybe he was compelled or whatever like that. But, okay. That's the only thing I could think. Yeah, surprising news, like, you think your nephew went crazy, or you think he was compelled. What if I told you it was the witches who put a hex on him? I'm not even going to try to impersonate Klaus's voice, because I'll fuck it up horribly, but That's how he would say it. So that.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to next week. So, yeah. Mike, where can the people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at Thilladren, ThilladRen.
You can find us on youtube.com/ASOTV podcast for some more podcasts for some of your favorite TV shows. Until next week, see you guys later.
Farewell.